So every year at the fair, they do what's called the Alternative Stock Show. And it's an incredible program that Chelsea Shearer and Tracy Reed started back in 2017. But they pair 4 H youth and people who experience disabilities together, and they teach them how to show their animals at the fair. And they do a whole stock show where they're judged by those 4 H judges. And just getting to see so many parts of our community come together, the agricultural community, the connection that people have to animals, and just the human connection. It's like the best day of the year. One of my favorite things ever.
Welcome to Shaping the Basin. I am here with Heidi. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
For those people out there that don't know you, tell us what you do.
Well, I do many things, but my favorite thing is I'm the director for Klamath County Developmental Disability Services, or KCDDS, and I get to lead a team of 40 people, and we support individuals here in the Klamath Basin who experience intellectual or developmental disabilities.
So for the unknower, the person that
Sure.
doesn't know, what does that mean like day to day? What are those 40 people doing with their day?
We are essentially a case management entity. So, throughout Oregon, there are different agencies who are tasked with supporting individuals in their communities. And so we take real ownership in supporting people to live the best life that they choose. Many of our staff members are services coordinators. And what that means is we authorize services in order for people to access the community more fully. So that could look like helping them find a personal support worker or a designated support person to go out into the community or to just complete activities of daily living. That means we could be helping find someone a job or ways for them to engage in their community. We might help them find a group home or a foster home for them to live in. But again, it's all completely voluntarily based, and we really take the lead from the person because we are just there to help support them in whatever it is they choose to do.
Okay. And what you said, developmental
Yes.
disabilities, I'm guessing that's like a whole range of things
Mhm.
that they're challenges that they may be facing.
Absolutely. We serve people birth to death. Currently, I think we have someone as young as 3 months old in our services. We have people into their 80s who are in services. And intellectual and developmental disabilities really do fall along a spectrum. There are hundreds of developmental disabilities and disorders that might qualify someone for services. And in order to become a part of our services, folks go through an eligibility process, and they have to meet very strict criteria that's set by the state. And if they are deemed eligible, then that's when we're able to then connect them to services.
Okay. What do most people not know about people with developmental disabilities?
I love that question. I think we tend to infantilize people who experience disabilities, and I think it's a human characteristic to want to care for and to protect. But I think the most important thing is to remember that they are humans just like we are, and they are individuals with needs and wants and desires. And so I think it's just important to get to know people for exactly who they are, and then to just help support them along the way, but allow them to be the one who tells you who they are, not that we're
Mhm.
putting them into any type of box.
Okay. What are there some common challenges in the community that they face?
I think every person's experience is different, but I think it's just a challenge is maybe finding people who can help support them in those activities where they can still be as independent as possible. People who experience disabilities, just like you or I, may have amazing talents and they may have wonderful things that they're able to do easily and without support. And just like I need support with things, they might need those supports too. So I think it's just really identifying the areas where support is most needed and then finding trusted people who can come in and to help do that, again, in a way that allows the person to have dignity and choice.
hmm I remember at Leadership Klamath a few years ago, somebody came in and I cannot remember what organization they were with, but they did an exercise with us where they talked to us about some of the challenges people with it was more physical disabilities,
Hmm.
like in a wheelchair, how
Sure.
difficult it could be. And one part that was eye opening was parking. You know,
Hmm.
when somebody parks next to you, it was eye opening to me. Like I'd never thought about those things. So I'm just curious if there's any of those sorts of things with intellectual disabilities that are common.
Well, I
Maybe
think
not.
with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities, a lot of times disabilities may not be something that we see to like the naked
Mhm.
eye, right? So with physical disabilities or folks who utilize wheelchairs, things like that, there is a visual cue that
Mm.
tells us that they may need support or we may need to be accommodating in some way. And in other situations, especially with intellectual and developmental disabilities, we have to actually use our skills to attune and maybe notice that we might need to speak a little bit more slowly, or maybe they're
Mhm.
having some support and they need some support in a situation, and we have to guide our way through that. And so I think accessibility in general, whether that's parking, access, seating, hearing impairment, there are so many ways that our community can be more accessible, and which really then brings the whole community together.
Mhm. How did you get involved in that work?
It's a funny story. Prior to working for Klamath County, I did not have any previous experience supporting people who experience intellectual or developmental disabilities. But after I completed graduate school, I was offered an opportunity to join the team. And that was my first real chance to find a passion and to find that the ways I already loved being a part of the community and supporting the community, I got to do it and champion it in a new way by really helping to advocate and project the voices of people who maybe hadn't been heard previously, and to challenge people in a way, hopefully comfortably, to recognize our own biases and realize that we all can do more to make our community more inclusive.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that you go to conferences and learn from other people around the country. How does Klamath fare when it comes to like the amount of services available to people? Are we pretty good off? Are we
I
pretty
think
well
we
off
do
for
an
rural?
excellent job.
Yeah.
I think that Oregon has really set the bar across the nation in terms of being very progressive in its supports for people with all types of disabilities. Back in 2000, actually, Oregon was one of the first states in the nation to close its institution, which was located in Salem. And that really was created a trickle effect where then people were coming back to their communities where for generations folks went away if they experienced a disability, they experience disconnection from their home. And so I think we do an excellent job of helping people be in their communities and feel that they are a part of their community. And because of the services that we can offer, we have a ton of agencies who do provide lots of supports to people. So I know that at the end of the day, we're still a pretty small community, but I think we do an excellent job.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of things that you can't share for privacy reasons, but is there like a really heartwarming story of somebody that's been helped?
We get to hear so many incredible stories every day. I'll share some figures just to give you a
Okay.
sense
Yeah.
of how many people that we support. So, currently, we serve over 750 people in Klamath County who experience either intellectual or developmental disabilities. And that's grown exponentially since when I joined the team back in 2018, we were serving about 250 people. So, through our community outreach initiatives and by creating more access to just the community in general, people have really come and said, okay, I do think I want to consider services. One of my favorite things, it's not necessarily a single person, but it's an event. So every year at the fair, they do what's called the Alternative Stock Show.
Mhm.
And it's an incredible program that Chelsea Shearer and Tracy Reed started back in 2017. But they pair 4 H youth and people who experience disabilities together, and they teach them how to show their animals at the fair. And they do a whole stock show where they're judged by those 4 H judges. And just getting to see so many parts of our community come together, the agricultural community, the connection that people have to animals, and just the human connection. It's like the best day of the year.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things ever.
I bet it's really rewarding for the 4-H youth and like everybody. What a great
Oh, yeah. And
experience.
the people who win, so they have found a buckle sponsor. So for every person in the different categories, they win a buckle. And there's one gal in particular. She comes every year and she is like, I'm going to get that buckle. It's going to be mine. And it's just really fun to see everyone interact together. And it's just very wholesome. And I don't know, makes me smile.
Yeah. Are there other outreach programs like that that you can think of you do?
Totally. We really try to push the envelope in creating events. We call that are exclusive and inclusive. So, exclusive is when we do events specifically for our population. We have one coming up at the end of the month where we're putting on a Lego event at the library. We know we have a lot of folks who love Legos of all ages. And so we bring them together to come and build with themselves, their community, and our team. And it's just a great way to connect. But more of our inclusive opportunities are, for example, the Halloween event that I created, the trunk or treat that we do at the fairgrounds every year. It's really a safe, inclusive space for the whole community to come together and trick or treat. But we are also aware of how we can make it more inclusive for folks with disabilities. So we have a sensory hour where for the first hour, folks can make a reservation because maybe coming when there's 5,000 people is going to be way too much. And so they're able to be a part of it without and having those accommodations made.
Mm-hmm. Uh, that sensory hour idea,
Mhm.
did you do, was there something like that at the fair? I feel like I saw, maybe it was a different fair. I thought I saw.
They've had some of our local agencies who support people in our services. They've done like a sensory room at the fair,
Oh,
a
yeah.
calming station. And what I have loved about the work that we do is that none of us own this work, right? But by being able to offer it and then show people how easy it is to be accommodating, it's the ripple effect to see that other agencies and other organizations are saying, I think I'm going to do that. And I don't even need to do that through the DD office or anything like that. I just want to be more inclusive.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
You do some other things in the community.
I
You're really
do.
involved in pageant.
I am.
You're looking a little sparkly, kind of pageanty, I have to
Thank
say.
you. Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about pageant.
Okay, well, I am a part of the board of directors for the Miss Klamath County Miss City of Sunshine Scholarship Program, and it's definitely a passion of mine. I grew up as a part of the program. I won't say how many years ago it was, but I actually started as a little sister back in 1995. My mom was on the board of directors, and for those who don't know, the Little Sister program, which is now called Shining Stars, is like a mentorship opportunity for very young ladies, ages like 5 to 12, to meet the contestants and to really just start the process of opening their eyes to what pageant could look like. And then that really grew into a passion for me of having so many role models of young women in our community who are incredible, so talented, so smart, such amazing representatives of our community. And so I wanted to be one of them. And so I competed when I was younger and then now serve on the board.
That's fun. I think that's probably another area where there's some
Most
misconceptions.
definitely.
Talk to me about those.
I think that most people consider pageants a beauty contest. What I love about the Miss America organization and why I'm so passionate about it is because it's about so much more than that. There's four pillars of the program, and then it it's actually represented in the crowns that the girls wear. You'll notice that there's 4 points on the crown, and those stand for style, scholarship, success, and service. To me, those four S's have really carried across my life as I've become a leader in the community. And the cool thing about the crown is there's the circle or the base, and it stands for sisterhood. So for all the young women who are competing, a lot of people might have a misconception that it's very catty or that they're in competition with one another. But really, they're creating friendship and connection with other young women who become such important parts of their lives. And so it's just a circle of support.
Mhm.
And so I really think that by competing in that system, there's so many skills that you learn. You learn how to communicate with confidence. You learn to advocate for causes that are important to you and to serve your community and lead with authenticity and a sense of genuineness.
Mhm. What kinds of things do the girls have to do, like during the
During the
competition?
competition, yes. So there's five, I believe five phases of competition, and they're all weighted differently. But the most impactful in the score is actually the private interview. So the girls will come before a panel of five judges, and really they are asked a myriad of questions. Could be about local politics, it could be about national news, everything in between. But each one of them choose what's called a community service initiative. That's anything that they want. That could be breast cancer awareness, that could be supporting volunteerism in the community. But whatever they choose, that's what they're going to champion for the year and dedicate their service around. So a lot of their interview is about that specific topic. In addition to that, there's a talent. So they could play piano, they could do a monologue. We've had girls do really cool, like basketball dribbling routines. I mean, whatever your talent is, it's there for the stage.
Mhm.
There is a athletic portion called lifestyle and fitness. So looking for young women who are healthy and fit in all aspects of their health. There is an evening gown competition, and then there's an onstage question. So you see those interview skills come back again, where not only are they answering a question, but to an entire audience.
It's easy to get lost. Don't know which path to take, what to post. In the social media jungle, video is king. Your kids are obsessed, your customers are addicted, we're all hooked, and social media sites prioritize videos. So when you're ready to stand out from the crowd, reach out to 40 Deuce Films. Feeling over everything.
Is there one talent that stands out to you as like maybe different than the, because I imagine there's a lot of, I'm not singing is an incredible talent, but I
Sure.
am assuming there's a lot of singing or musical instruments. Is there anything that stands out?
You'd be very surprised. I think it's one really cool thing that Miss America has incorporated is they've started calling something the her story. Instead of history, it's her story. And it's really just an opportunity to talk about yourself. There was a Miss America a few years ago who was a lieutenant in the Air Force, and she spoke about the power of like flying a plane. She was a pilot. And that was a really cool story. And it wasn't usual. Here locally, we've had girls who speed paint, all types of hula dancing. You know, you can literally do anything as your talent. A magic trick. We've seen all of those and more.
That's fun. I bet you do girls come in really shy and then you'll see them like come out of their shell, I'm guessing.
Oh, definitely. And that's what keeps me coming back year after year because I think that you see them learn a little bit more about themselves and they come into really who they are. And then you get to see it on stage and you watch them and you're like, those are the future leaders of our community. Those are the young women who are going to carry this and be the next board of directors when it's time for me to retire. So it's
Mhm.
always like a pay it forward type of situation. And I think for me, being a part of the program was a big part of my own development. So I love seeing that in other young women.
Mhm. And you've mentioned Miss America, so it is part of the Miss America.
Yes. So it's a local preliminary to the Miss America pageant. And so our local winners here will go and represent at Miss Oregon. That happens in Seaside every June. And then the winners there will go on and compete at Miss America. And I say winners because here locally we have two Miss titles. That's young women who are 18 to 28. We also have two teen winners, and those young women are 13 to 18. So there's two age divisions.
Okay. Have we ever had anybody from Klamath win Miss Oregon? Like it title?
Yes. So we
Okay.
actually have had a couple of young women who have gone to Oregon Tech and who have gone on to win Miss Oregon and to go to Miss America. Two wonderful young women, Allison Cook and Stephanie Steers West, two who I totally appreciate and value just as people and human beings. And I had the opportunity to go and actually watch them both times at Miss America, and it was so cool to see our community represented there. And we actually here locally have a Miss America winner. Katie
Yes.
Harmon Ebner was Miss America, and she is an incredible asset to our community and just a really cool, amazing woman. And so it's cool to have that local history as well.
I wonder if there's others that have competed. I
Yeah.
don't know. Interesting.
Mhm.
Fun story.
Okay.
Joyce, that worked in my office,
Yes,
Joyce Jordan was one of the first. I think she was the first.
I
We
do
had some fun
believe.
stories. She would maybe hate for me to say that on the podcast, but when I found out, I used to tease her, but with the respect. It was really fun. She did one time share some photos from that time with me and stuff. Really fun program. And you give
Yeah.
away a lot of scholarship money.
We do. So the program started here locally in 1966. And since that time, we've given over $1 million in scholarship. Going back to those four S's, scholarship is a huge component of what drives so many young women to compete because they're looking for a way to fund their education. And even though I already loved the program, that was a huge calling card for myself too. And so it's really amazing to see again these young women who have so many wonderful attributes and they're really looking for a way to fund their education.
Yeah. So you started in the was it called Little Sisters?
Little Sisters.
All right. And then did you do it as an older
I
teen as
did.
well?
I competed
Okay.
as a teen and a miss prior to getting engaged and getting married. So,
Okay.
yeah,
What was your talent?
I did a couple of different talents. One year I sang, and then I also played my viola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how long have you played the viola?
Well, it has a little dust on it currently, but I played all the way from fifth grade in orchestra when you start, and then all the way through high school and college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a story that stands out during one of your competitions? Was there something really cool that
You
happened to you?
know, I think that I was very proud. Actually, there was a scholarship that was available called the Pay It Forward Scholarship, and it was based on the book Pay It Forward.
Mhm.
And I was the first winner of that scholarship. I was so proud to win because truly, I know it's one thing for people to come and say, "Come and be a part of the community," but to me, it was an opportunity to show that I really I was backing up what I had to say. I walked the walk and I talked the talk, and so that was a really proud moment to be the first winner of that scholarship.
That's exciting. Do they
Yeah.
still do that one?
They don't do that one anymore, but we do have there's like different talent awards, interview awards. There's essay awards, which was the one that I was talking about, where people will give a certain topic. Like there's one specifically called "It's Okay to Not Be Okay," and it's really talking about mental health awareness and how we can all support each other in having more healthy mental health. And so that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Has the participation in it remained pretty consistent, or is it up and down? How's the?
Here locally, it's pretty consistent. And I really feel like that has to do with our local board of directors. We have an incredible volunteer organization of women who this is their passion. There's a lot of communities across Oregon who no longer have a local competition. And so we actually open our doors to women who no longer have a program in their area if it's like a neighboring county. So may have delegates come from like Deschutes or Jackson County, since those areas no longer have a pageant.
Okay.
But this year we have 15 delegates in both the teen and miss competition. So I think still a pretty great turnout.
Yeah. What day is the pageant this year?
Saturday, April 18th.
Okay.
And we're so excited because this year we're going back to the Ross Ragland
Oh,
for the
fun.
competition to take place, which feels just very fun to be a part of the rich history that is the Ragland. And for the girls, it's really exciting to get to perform on such a large stage.
That stage is beautiful too. What
It
a
is.
neat thing. Yeah, you mentioned we were talking earlier about a trip that you did and how much you
Yes.
love Broadway. So you probably really love the Ross Raglan, I'm
I do.
guessing.
We're so lucky to have such an incredible
Mhm.
theater here regionally. And I think that because I had the opportunity to go to the Ross Ragland growing up and until I got older and traveled to other places, it's even more a gem to me now, knowing that there's so many communities who have less access to the arts.
Have you ever been in any of their productions at the Ross Raglan?
When I was younger, I got to do a couple of summer camps like Cinderella when they bring the Missoula's Children's Theater. I did that a
Mhm.
couple of times. And then when I was competing in the pageant, it was at the Ross Raglan. So I got to perform on the stage there. And when I was in choir and orchestra.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
very fun. Very fun. What other things do you do? Are you involved with smart reading?
I am involved with smart reading. Look at you. You did all
I
your
know a little.
research. So, actually, fun fact, smart reading was my community service initiative when I was competing for pageants. So, since that time, since I was 17 years old, I've been volunteering with smart reading in many capacities as a volunteer reader, as a site coordinator, and now I serve on their leadership council. So, I think next year it'll be 20 years that I have been volunteering with them. I was a voracious reader as a child and I would beg my mom to take me to the library so I could get my new fresh set of 12 books that I
Mhm.
could just, go through as quickly as possible. And so I think that from a young age, I knew how important literacy was. And to me, I think it's just so important that we continue to ensure that the children in our community have access to books and to also not only just materials, but what makes Smart so cool is that you're pairing community folks with children in classrooms and they get to see people who come and suit up and show up for them and to get to read with them.
Yeah. Do they still partner with Rotary for are you still doing that? Where didn't Rotary used to go and read to the kids? Was that part
I
of
think
Smart?
there was something that they used to do with Rotary. I'm not sure if that still is
Mm,
happening, but it sounds familiar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. Uh, I think sometimes I talk to a lot of people that say they don't know how to get involved in our community, or they feel like they don't have time,
Hmm.
or they wonder why me. But you're involved in, I mean, even your work is very time consuming and big impact. And then you're involved in these other two things.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody?
I think that as community members, it's our job to be like the co-creators of the community we want to live in. And so oftentimes I think also that people think like I'm too busy or I don't have enough time. And it's because they're thinking really big. A lot of people think it has to be, I have to give 20 hours, or it has to be this enormous project, or it has to be a cause that's really heartwarming. And I would challenge people to think about breaking it down into like, find ways to micro volunteer. It could be an hour. It could just be something that you think is a cool opportunity. It could be giving a student or a community member a chance. Even just an interview like this, you could mentor someone who has a senior project. There's so many different ways to get involved. And then once you are, you're hooked. Yeah.
Um, I like this idea of micro volunteering. I'm trying to think of what other examples there are out there. You mentioned mentoring. Can you think of other ones?
Well, I think that even, oh, that's a hard question. I think there's so many amazing organizations in our community, and they will take your time, they will take your talent, they will take your treasure, right? There's so many ways that you can give back. And oftentimes, like, as I don't know if you saw on camera, but I brought Heather some eggs. But an example, okay, so I did Dancing with Your Stars a couple years ago, and we needed to help raise money for the Ragland and for the programs. I often give my time and talent, but not necessarily so much my treasure, as I'm still building in my career. But in order to do that, I got donations for my eggs, for my chickens. And that was a way for me to generate revenue and to say, hey, friends, I don't need $100. I don't need $1,000, but could you give $5? There's so many ways for people to get creative and to find a way to give back in some way.
Yeah, fun. I have to ask about Dancing with the Stars. What dance
Yes.
did you do?
I had the disco. I think you did too.
I did too. What
Yes.
song was your song?
Ooh, it was, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's
Yes.
fun. Mine was Bad Girl by Donna Summer.
Oh, you had an official disco
It
song.
was terrifying. Easily the most scary thing I've ever done in my life. I would bungee jump before.
Did you like the experience after?
I did.
Yeah.
Did you? Did you love
I
it?
loved it.
But you like theater, and you've been on pageant. That makes sense.
It was so much fun. And I think the cool thing about our year was that each dance was themed after like a famous movie.
Oh.
So mine was Ghostbusters. They had Rocky. They had Toy Story. So all the dances were kind of paired to that.
Mhm.
And what I love about that program is that you pull together people who probably know of each other, but maybe don't necessarily connect with each other all the time. And it was such a fun way to come together. And I mean, I loved it. I would tell anybody to do that if they have the opportunity.
Me too. If you get a phone call, do it.
Do
You
it.
won't regret
Say
it. You don't
yes.
ever have to do it again, but do it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yes.
We are nearing the end of our time. So if I gave you $250,000 to do something today in our community, what would you do with it?
Wow, there's so many incredible causes, but I think I would go back to that alternative stock show that I was talking to you about earlier. I think that there's a way to harness the magic that is that event, and I would love to find a way to scale it and help other local fairs, state fairs, and even across the nation see that make a ripple effect, really just to bring people together through opportunities like that.
That would be awesome. You mentioned role models earlier, but can you tell me about one of them?
Man, that's really hard. Again, I have an incredible circle of support, but first and foremost is my mom. She's a cancer survivor. She experienced that when I was a young girl. And so she really taught me from a young age the importance of resilience and knowing that all of us are not promised tomorrow. So to just live life to the fullest every day.
That's great. And you mentioned books. So do you have a favorite book?
My husband and I are totally Harry Potter nerds. I would say they were very impactful. And if it's not Harry Potter, I would say I love the book Roots. That was a really powerful book for me. It's by Alex Haley. I read that in the 6th grade, which is kind of crazy that I was reading such a thick book at that time, but it was really powerful to learn about the slavery experience and to want to challenge my own ideas about the things that we learn and know about our history.
Yeah. It's probably stuck with you for all those years since 6th grade.
Yes.
That's the awesome thing about books. Well, I really appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you to our producer, 40 Deuce Films.